Hey again, welcome back for another battle report. This time it's a bit of a special battle report. You can see the list that I'm running right here. It's a Vampire Covenant zombie themed list, and well, when I wrote this list I didn't see in the roster, or I didn't notice in the roster, that there's apparently a limit on the number of zombie units you can field. And I feel it's for the better, because, well, the army you end up with is quite a special army indeed. Yeah, so the goal of this army was to face off against an army that my cousin actually put together, and you'll see the army list a bit later. Yeah, so our idea was to counter his army with an army that had just a lot of bodies, but really couldn't do a lot otherwise than that. And I tried to make the most viable, still thematic zombie list that I could come up with, but in hindsight, I tried to put in as much channeling as possible to get as much dice as possible in the magic phase. But probably in hindsight, I should have gone for a Wizard Master on Vampire, Nosferatu with a +2 to cast and a +1 for being Wizard Master, and a guy with extra range on the spells and stuff. It probably would have been better because I ended up with just casting three spells each round still. But I'll get to that a bit more inside the battle report. So the list for my opponent was an Orcs and Goblin list. So the Orcs and Goblin list, it's a list with a lot of random movement, a lot of wrecking stuff, and, well, 3 giants with a wrecking ball, 2 Nashor wrecking teams, 2 scrap wagons. And then for core, 3 units of Frenzy Feral Orcs. So my cousin wrote this list with the idea that after turn 1 you don't really have control about your list anymore. But I would say that for this full effect he should have actually included Night Goblins with, the Goblins with the Mad Gits in them. Because, well, that would have been even more fun in the matchup that we had. But we are going to just see how many zombies that he can smash with this list, really. Yeah, so it's a matchup that we set up priorly, and yeah, I'm quite curious. I was quite curious what would happen. By now I know, and I'm here to inform you guys what's going to happen. So here you can see some army pictures. First of the vampire accounts. So I'm still using my Empire-themed Vampire Covenant for this. And then the Orcs and Goblins. We also have some nice shots, as you can see here. Unfortunately, this time when I thought I was turning on the camera for the battle report, I actually just took a picture, so well, the deployment is not on the video. But, well, it's probably quite clear what's going on here. So yeah, on my top I just have my army, and then on the bottom is my opponent's. Probably everything is quite recognizable. The giants for sure, the feral orcs for sure, chariots for sure. So the only thing is that on the left there's the wrecking teams, the 2 balls, and then there's a pump wagon behind one of the giants, and there's also a pump wagon all the way on the right. And for me there's 2 phantom hosts that are a little bit halfway the board. Otherwise I have I have characters everywhere. I have some bats in between the units at the hill, and I have the 2 corpse guards in the 2nd and the 6th unit from the left. And otherwise it's all just zombies, yeah. As you can see, I took first turn. Normally with vampire counts people advise you not to do so. But in this case, well, I was quite stuck in my deployment zone because I just had so many models. So I needed some space to be able to even raise more models. So I think for me it was a good choice to pick first turn. Yeah, so now we go to my 2nd turn. In my opponent's magic phase, the only thing he managed to do in terms of damage was some wounds on the Phantom Host on the left. This actually allowed my Phantom Host to charge his pump wagon, and because I couldn't fully align to his unit, I made him with his pump wagon shift over a little bit to the left, which was where his wrecking team was. So yeah, unfortunately on one hand, but luckily on the other, his wrecking team didn't get to see a lot of play in this way. Yeah, and otherwise we have one unit of zombies very very courageously charging a giant in the flank, and yeah, we'll get to see what's gonna happen there. So yeah, the reason that I put all these Lamia vampires, these two Lamia vampires in the army list, was to get the wheel turns, which allows your units to get hit on a 4+, get wounded on a 4+. Well, it's the to hit and to wound rolls are set to 4+, and also your unit is hitting and wounding on a 4+. So for zombies, this is a godlike spell basically, because these giants will just wound me on a 4+ now instead of a 2+. So that's very good. But the only thing is that this is the only spell that is interesting for my opponent to stop. Like, reroll to hit doesn't matter, reroll to wound doesn't matter, 5+ ward save doesn't matter because I have the cards anyway that give them a regeneration of 5+. And yeah, it felt like, yeah, that was the spell that my opponent needed to stop, and otherwise, well, there would be more zombies, but with the dice, without having any bonus to your casting, casting the bubble of evocation is still, it's still, I believe, on a 7 or an 8+, so you still want about 3 dice for that. You're not gonna manage to cast it more than 2 times. So most of my magic phases were 2 times casting evocation and also trying for the wheel turns. Yet, so in hindsight, I should have gone for at least one Wizard Master on with the Nosferatu upgrade to make the hereditary spell also be blood magic, so I have a +2 to cast for everyone in the list, so you can cast it on 2 dice instead of on 3 dice, which would definitely make a difference, and also just forgo the wheel turns, because otherwise this is going to be the one spell that your opponent's going to stop. So probably it's better to be able to get about 5 times evocation rolls, arise rolls to summon more troops, and you'll end up with just a massive army. Yeah, that would have been better probably. But on the other hand, yeah, it's not allowed to put as many zombies in the list as I did in this case, so some of the units would have been skeletons in more fair play. Probably it even just upgrades the list because skeletons die a bit less quickly. But it's a list that you should only play on a on an agreed game, because it's so bloody annoying to play against all these zombies. Because in the end, if you manage to kill a unit of zombies, well, all you killed is just a unit of zombies, really. So at the start of the game, it looks like this, and my opponent is very disheartened because it's just so many models, and they keep coming back, and yeah, they have a 5+ regen save still, so they, even if they just manage to inflict 1 or 2 wounds, well, they're not gonna break. They don't crumble a lot because you still have 3 ranks and banner. And on the giant I also the flank charge, so the giant did manage to do enough wounds to just stick there. And then it's my opponent's turn, and my opponent, this turn he actually calls the war. Not because the distances are so great for all his charges, but I believe he had one charge which he really wanted to make, which was his Wyvern against the Phantom Host, if I remember it correctly, but I'm not completely sure. But he thought that any of the other charges he had to make were going to be very close in the future of this game. So he didn't really need the wire at any other moment anymore. Yeah, we can see that he's just charging everything, really. Everything is going to smack down some zombies. At this point, I am... Yeah, and on one hand, I was quite confident that it might still be possible for my army to just grind them down. On the other hand, the damage output that comes out of these orcs it's so incredibly high if they manage to strike first every single round. So yeah, what happens is in the combat with the giant, where I'm engaging the giant in the flank, he throws in 2 chariots and a unit of orcs. And then, yeah, in this situation where he's moving now, we encountered that it was a bit difficult for him to maximize it in the way he wanted, because he actually wanted to put some chariots in the unit on the right. But it was hysterically congested. Like there was not sufficient space for any of this stuff to fit in there, really. So this is what we ended up with, and I was kind of confident that yeah, some of these bricks would hold. Because yeah, I already raised quite a lot of zombies, and yeah, it's an army that's built to last, right? So I was hoping for my next round and just being able to get some zombies back. As you can see already, the board is getting really congested. So at this point, it's not only him that doesn't have any say anymore as to what will happen in the game, because I can just fiddle around a little bit with my movement and make some nice angles. But the end result will always be that he's going to charge a block of zombies. And the only thing I can do is choose in which order he was going to charge my zombies. If he manages to clear the unit. And otherwise, yeah, for me it's just rolling 10 dice per unit and then hoping that some of it will actually inflict a wound. And yeah, it's possibly it's a list you can play to induce a draw on your opponent. But seeing as both players, well, the other player wants to have a nice game and then he gets stuck up with a zombie horde. And also you yourself, the only thing you do all game is just roll 10 dice per unit to see if they manage to do anything at all. So I wouldn't say that this is necessarily the most interesting list to play against the most opponents. But in this matchup, we felt like we had to do it and see what would happen. So it's a bit of a shame that just his wrecking teams are well, he still has one of the wrecking teams on the left in the forest. So he didn't have really anywhere else to go with his wrecking team, so he actually sent it into the forest where it took 2 wounds. Yeah, I'm not saying that it's my opponent's fault that his first wrecking team died. But yeah, sending it into the forest is maybe it's not the best option for a wrecking team, especially if you focus on killing as many zombies as possible. Yeah, so here we see what happens if you charge flank charge a unit of zombies with a block of orcs and 2 chariots. You just go clean through, even if there's 60 zombies. It doesn't matter. You just shoot through. So the big problem here was that, well, I wasn't able to knock off. I believe I needed to knock off just 1 orc in order to be stat fast. If you're stat fast with undead, then the amount of wounds you can get from crumbling, the maximum is 12 wounds. I couldn't get the stat fast in this situation, so I missed 1 rank for it, and then he just went through. So the situation without the block of orcs, you can see on the right, where there's only a giant, well, only where there's a giant and a chariot going into a block of zombies. They do manage to knock off a total of like 20 wounds, 25 wounds between combat and also combat resolution. But still, I have some zombies left, so maybe it's comfortable after all. Yeah, and then we had this quick combat with Spirit Host. They actually got a rear charge of a pump wagon, and I managed to just completely wreck the pump wagon. So that's with 8 attacks, 4s to hit, 5s to wound, and then he doesn't have a save anymore, I believe, because I'm AP1. Yeah, it managed to do 4 wounds, and then we drew on the combat, I believe. Or his lord had to take a test, but he managed to stick. And then we go to the 2 combats in the left side of the board. And yeah, it's just so many zombies dying. There's really a lot of zombies dying. So By this point we are going over the 100 threshold, because, well, first unit he decimated was 60, then in the comment on the right there was more than 20 for sure, and then here's this again, more than 20 for sure. So I'm about to just take away the entire unit, because I believe I crumbled to the man. But then I checked my roster, and then this unit was one of the units in which there was a fell rate. So at some, yeah, we are doing the overrun here, but at some point I'm going to notify my opponent, and we're going to reverse the situation. I'm wondering when this is going to be, when I realize. I believe it's after the combat, but anyway. So these guys, they're getting stuck against a single fell rate. Oh, maybe it's already there. So then we go to the other combat. Yeah, this is just a block of orcs. So they're going to grind down the zombies over time. And at this point, I'm not even too unhappy, because, well, I lost a lot of zombies obviously, but the end result is that I only lost 2 units of zombies, 3. Well, 1 unit I'm still gonna lose on the right. But I have a nice juicy flank charge. And well, I do charge away the boar chariot of my opponent, and I managed to charge him first with, I don't remember what, I believe with the big block, and then later with the phantom hosts to just get him off the field. And then the bats, they also charged on the chariot, yeah. So my units, we are still casually playing, so the failed charge of the bats we reverse, and then we allow the big block to come into the combat. So at this point, this is still a single combat, I believe. No, it wasn't, because the Gnashers, they were not able to maintain contact with the raid, because I am engaging multiple units. I'm not allowed to be moved. His units are not allowed to be moved, other than the unit that has to get in contact. So the Nasher Dashers, they were out of combat, but I could overrun with the block of zombies if I were to remove all of the Nasher Dashers. Yeah, so at this point, my thoughts are that I will remove the Nasher Dashers. I will overrun into the flank of the orcs, making it one big combat where only the wounds count. I have a wraith that has a 3+ ward save against any of his attacks. That's keeping everything locked in combat. I have a charge, I have a flank, I have more ranks than him, I have 3 ranks, and I have another banner. And he only has 3 ranks on a banner. And he might have my flank, but I also have a big flank. In the end, I was counting on having considerably more combat resolution than him, being able to break his orc block and his giant, who's corner to corner with my vampire, actually, because I was expecting to do also a couple of wounds with my vampire, mitigating the wounds he would do with his giant, because the unit that just charged into the giant is still in its first round of combat, so it still has a 5+ regeneration save. So yeah, that was my expectation, and then we'll go to the magic phase. You can see some dice behind 4 of the units. For now, these are just dice indicating how many wounds I managed to raise, so I only got 1 arise off this turn. Yeah, so with this Nosferatu setup, I would expect you to be able to get 2 arises off at least every single turn, because this +2 to cast is just so bloody immense, I think. And also you can get a vampire with +3 inch range on his aura spell, so you go to 9 inch or 15 inches for the raise. Yeah, and that's really big. You can just raise back the entire army instead of just a part of your army. So if you combine it with skeletons, then yeah, it can be a very durable army, even though it won't actually do anything. So yeah, we go to the combat. Funny stuff happens. So he manages to kill my wraith, that for one. So the orcs, I'm not sure what happened. I believe, yeah, I didn't go through the Nashadashes, which was amazing to my mind. They managed to kill like 6 or so, and then the only unit I actually had was the zombies against the giant with the raid in the corner. So the raid died, and then because of that, the only combat rest that counts from any of the units were they still to be in contact would be wounds. So yeah, he inflicts more wounds than I, so the orcs, they just stick where they are. And they don't have an opponent anymore, so they just stick where they are. But I do manage to make the giant flee. But yeah, I can't reform with my unit, so I'm just ready for an orc charge basically. And otherwise, yeah, we go to the other combats. We work through all of them, and then I managed to put the models back in the units where they should be. So at this point, I have the unit on the right with the corpse guard in it. Yeah, it's a big unit now. It's a very big bus. This is the biggest bus I've ever had on the table. So it's, I believe, 60 zombies just raised to the max with a corpse guard in there. And yeah, it looks very long. Yeah, so if you're confused about it, this is just a single unit. And there's about 15 orcs fighting this unit, and they're quite comfortable at doing so. It's just zombies. The card itself has 9 attacks at strength 3, so that's nothing to be impressed about. And then yeah, I get 4 attacks from the zombies, so yeah, that's wow, super impressive. Yeah, so he actually manages to just stick in this combat, just because nothing is really happening. And then I do manage to cast also the wheel turns on my big bus of zombies. But yeah, it's just now that I put the card there. Then we go to my opponent's turn. A lot of stuff happens. Most notably, the wrecking team on the left just random moves and dies because of the terrain. Otherwise, he charges in the chariot and the giant into the very, very big, long zombie bus on the right. And otherwise, he opts to not charge with his orcs against my block on the left, but he decides to get rid of the Phantom Host, thinking that he could just reform afterwards, and then if I were to charge into him, he would still cope. He only didn't realize that his orcs are frenzied, so for any reform, any post-combat pivot, I believe, he has to take a maximized leadership test to see if he doesn't overrun. Or at least that's what we thought at the time. I'm still unsure about whether this is actually correct. Yeah, and otherwise it's a grind fest. It really is a grind fest. There's like so many zombies, but they all get smacked down so efficiently, really. These orcs, the stat line is not that impressive, I would say, but it's just a lot of attacks coming from everywhere, and also these giants, oh my god, they work very well if you manage to get them in a matchup like this. So they start out with d6 hits, so most notably these are hits and not attacks, and yeah, strength 5, I believe, just normally. My toughness 3 is not going to save the day there. So yeah, combine that with the rage of the giant, where they get 1 attack normally extra for each wound that they had suffered. For these wrecking ball giants, this results in getting 1 extra hit for each wound that they have suffered. And the way my opponent plays it is also that he sometimes pushes his giants through terrain just to get some extra wounds on them, and it worked out quite well for him. So by now, oh yeah, this was a this was a tricky situation where he had a giant that managed to just clip 2 units. And this giant was on 6 wounds. The other giant is also, I believe, on 6 wounds. So every time he goes into a unit, he does d6 plus 6 hits at strength 5. And then afterwards, he still has a thunderstorm of d6 hits. So he has 2d6 plus 6 hits that wound me on a 2 plus. The only thing I have against that is in the first round the regen save of 5 plus. And sometimes I make crazy rolls and I do manage to cope with it, but just it's so frustrating to have these giants on 6 wounds and not being able to kill them off. Yeah, so we're now doing the combat on the right, and I actually I read the card a bit better now, and it's only just rank and file models that get to hit and wound on a 4 plus against rank and file models. So the orcs, they actually target the corpse card, and they don't have to hit on a 4 plus, wound on a 4 plus. Instead, they can just use their offense and strength. And the corpse card gets nearly smacked down by the orcs, even though it's well, yeah. And yeah, it's only the giant that well, he hits automatically in this case, so my spell doesn't even work against that. And yeah, I do manage to survive with this unit, also being steadfast. But yeah, I suffer about 30 wounds or so. And it's countercharge time. So my turn, I countercharge the orc unit with 2 zombie units, and I'm going to save the day for my zombies. This is going to be epic. Yeah, this was where I had much faith in my zombies, because obviously this is going to go very well for me. Yeah, and on the left flank, yeah, this was a terrible situation where first my opponent managed to decimate my zombie unit, lock it in combat, not being able to charge the rear of these feral orcs, my only chance at getting them. And then now locking up my other unit, it's oh my god, this was not pleasant to say the least. Yeah, had it been just half an inch further away, or had I raised back just a couple of less guys, it would have been way more advantageous, because now I have this giant that's going to completely rip apart my unit. I have a vampire in the front of the unit, but he cannot get to the giant to inflict the last wound. I only get 1 or 2 attacks at the giant. It's awful. And then for my magic, I actually don't manage to raise back. Yeah, I don't remember why, but yeah, if it were allowed to make this list, because well, which it isn't because of the restriction on the zombie units you can field, but if it were allowed, yeah, definitely go for the Nosferatu instead for the Lamia version, just because of the wheel turns. And yeah, you're gonna enter a world of pain. There's gonna be so many zombies that die. By now my opponent has raked up the kills and has gone to about 200 zombies, I think, judging from what is happening on the board. And as you can see, the amount of orcs that I have killed by now is just marginal. It's really marginal in comparison to the zombies he killed. So far my tally is 2 wrecking teams, 1 because I got it to clip on Pump Wagon, and the other one because my opponent sent it through terrain. And then I got a Pump Wagon, obviously, because it got wrecked by a wrecking team. And I have 1 chariot because I chased it off the board because my opponent fled. I believe that's the total kill count for my list. Whilst at the same time you can see the zombies piling up in my casualty corner that's becoming my army in the top right of the screen. Yeah, so even this combat on the right where I flank charged my opponent's orcs didn't go well. So he inflicted so many wounds with this giant that's also on 6 wounds now, I believe. So he also does the 2d6 plus 6 strength 5 hits on my unit, and I don't manage to do enough wounds to get oh my god, yeah. This is why in vampire accounts you need something that actually can also pull some work, that can actually dish out some damage besides from your core. So at this time, by this time, on the right my units just vaporize. And on the left, I am way more no, I'm not way more confident, because I still have this giant, and I have a chariot at my ass, and I have a giant in my front now, I believe. Also, it's, yeah, these these guys are going to go to town and just completely wreck everything. So yeah, the wrecking has definitely happened. The wrecking was upon us. You can see the dice of my opponent, he's laying out just for combat res. And we're looking for how many wins I get in crumbling, and yeah, it's a disaster for the vampire accounts. These vampires are not coming back. Yeah, sometimes you have these fantasy stories about a vampire leading an army to a battle and then fleeing at the end of the battle because, yeah, he's going to come back for another day. Yeah, not these ones. These ones have been smashed to a paste by a wrecking ball bearing giant. And then afterwards being stomped on by the same giant, probably. Yeah, so this it was a fun game to play once, definitely. But me and my opponent agreed that we were never going to do this again, because it's just such a tedious job to do. Well, the tedious, enjoyable game to do. Yeah, so both of us definitely enjoyed it, I believe. But yeah, that's so many zombies, and they don't do shit. Yeah. Yeah, so at this point you can see me having a last go at knocking out a giant. So I need one more wound on this giant, and I'm very desperate to do so, even with my... I have a necromancer in this unit, I believe. I never lost my general in this game, which was quite remarkable to me. But apparently you can still keep him safe if your entire army is just zombies. Yeah, so I never had to check for crumbling on my leadership, which was a bliss, because, well, otherwise you get a lot of guys to die. But I think they did a nice job of making it a bit more stable in the undead armies in general, that if your Hierophant or if your general dies, then it's not definitely game over for you. But I feel like they could have been a bit more harsh on it, like if you have another wizard that could take over from your army, you could get a +2 on that of every leadership roll or something, or something like that, because now, yeah, you just roll once for any unit that isn't vampiric in the vampire accounts roster. You even get to test on the leadership of your character if he's attached to a unit. And then, yeah, you just don't really care if your general dies, after all. And I thought it was quite iconic to attach such value to your general. Anyway, we tidied up the corpses now, and yeah, this is the end of the battle. We didn't play with any secondary scenario, but in the end it's still a 17-3 for the Orcs and Goblins, just by the sheer amount of zombies that they killed and not having had so much losses themselves. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you next time.